All right, one.
All right, so this one here, I'll tease it a little bit. I'll actually call back to what you mentioned, Tone, in the intro, which is you mentioned the word cohesive, where a lot of these live albums are cohesive because they're recorded in one location. Well, this is kind of the antithesis of that, and what I'm talking about is Nirvana's "From the Muddy Banks of Wishkah" came
Oh,
out in
nice.
'96, and it's a weird live compilation album. Every song's from a different performance, a different year. It actually spans like 5 years, so some of these are even pre-Grohl. And this is gonna sound weird for this segment, but this album kind of stinks. Like it's not a great it's not cohesive. It's super raw. The recordings aren't good, but it teleports me back to being 11. I was 1996. I was 11. I got this, and I got it through Columbia House BMG mail order.
Wow.
So
Nice.
if we have any younger than us listeners, I feel like we were at the cusp of like any younger people wouldn't really know what that is, but basically a mail order CD. They tried to get you on like a subscription thing, but they would bait you in with penny CDs where you just pay a penny and you pay shipping for like 10 CDs, and then every CD after that was like $20.
Yeah.
So I remember like you just sign up with different members of your household and you'd have a whole CD collection. But this was one that I had when I was young. And again, it's not a great album, but I think it captures the essence of Nirvana perfect because they're not a good live band. They're a great experience. Like if I've seen live footage, they're great visually. Sound-wise, terrible. Cobain's terrible. And that's why like we mentioned earlier in this episode where like some of that stuff just doesn't translate, and that's kind of why I don't really dig a lot of the live stuff. But this one, it holds a special place. I love the CD cover. It's just that like burnt orange with the pictures of the band. It's so simple. One last thought is tying it back to if this was a money grab. It came out after Cobain died, and it was originally supposed to be the B-side to Unplugged, but they split it. And I think that's a money situation. Try to milk it. It's like all those Tupac albums that came out after he died. So are you guys familiar with this one?
Yeah, a little bit. And actually, the point you make is spot on. Like it's not really that great of an album, but it catches the grit of
Grit. There you go.
grunge in its heyday. And we had Lance Mercer on here, photographer, mainly for Pearl Jam, but the grunge era and just early '90s, mid '90s. Like he painted this picture that I wished I was I wish I was there so bad. Like if there was any way for me to be older and live that when we were really getting into music, I would pretty much do anything. I would pay anything to be in that experience and fully understand what was going on. And that bootleg captures that. It's like gritty, it's cheap, it's dirty, it's sweaty,
yep.
But it's real, and that's awesome. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that's what grunge really represents. Is like, yeah, this is like, just music. A bunch of us just came together and threw this together, and you guys are gonna mosh and whatever. It's gonna be whatever. It's what your parents tell you is just noise kind of thing. It's perfect. So that captures that. But I agree with you that it's just not the best live recording, and Kurt's just not great live. It's kind of like Sublime live. Like, he just wasn't a great performer. So, but it captures that kind of like moment in history for someone that's like essentially a staple for the music industry forever. So for that reason alone, like it almost has to be that way. So you make a good point on that.
I'm not as familiar with this one. Obviously, I'm more familiar with the MTV Unplugged, which is iconic as far as the MTV Unplugged series is concerned, and as far as Nirvana is concerned. You're right. They've never sounded great live.
No.
And that's not a knock on them. That's I guess recorded versions of those songs just don't translate like the energy would there in person, I'm sure. And if I could go back and do it, I would love to. I was too young.
Yeah.
But I would love to have been able to see those guys when I was 1991, when they were one of the biggest bands in the world. It would have been just awesome to catch them on tour for Nevermind, right? I mean, we would all be down for that, but it didn't happen. Obviously, we're a little too young, and we did get, and I've waffled on this record for so long, the Unplugged version, and it's never been all that great sounding per se, and that's it sounds like that's what this record's like too. but the feel is great because it's in one place. And where this
Yeah.
one is kind of all over the map. It's funny to me that it like you even said it. It's not that good, but
Yeah.
it does.
It's
It holds a special place for you because
That's
it's
what it
something you
is.
spend time with. Yep.
It's the nostalgic. I think it's the first one I got into. Like I had 311 Live, but that was in '98. I think this was the first live album I got, and I was gonna mention something. I can't remember what it was when you were talking, Tony. Oh, what it was is this was supposed to be the B-side to Unplugged.
Yep.
And I kind of like deep dove on that on Wikipedia, and it checks out because there's only one song that's on both Unplugged and this CD. So they intentionally split it like that. I think it's Polly, maybe. Polly's the only song that's on both. But yeah, this is the nostalgic, like, it's the whole like, who's the best band in the world? Okay, well, who's your favorite band? It's always different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is by no means the best one. This is like, it holds a special place. Yep. Oh, trivia.
Ooh.
What is this
got?
record's tie to the state of Maine, our hometown?
Portland.
What's that?
Was it mastered in Portland?
You motherfucker.
Bob Ludwig
Yes.
at Gateway Studios in Portland, Maine.
Do you have the wiki pulled up
many,
or what?
many. No.
No.
I just anything that was anything, especially the last 25 years, was mastered in Portland. Stuff that we love.
Yeah.
Tool,
All this
Bruce
stuff.
Springsteen, Nirvana. Yep.
Yeah. Our ultimate claim to fame.
Bob Ludwig, Grammy nominated winner.
Multiple winner.
yeah.
Multiple. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Nate. I got excited.
No, that's cool. I want to meet that guy. In fact, our buddy Rob that came on here on the podcast used to tell me stories all the time, like text me like, man, we should really run down to 4th Street because Bob Ludwig's there with Bruce Springsteen right now having dinner. You know what I mean? Just as a nerd to like bombard him for autographs, but we're like, nah, we can't do that. But like in retrospect, I probably should have done that,
I'm surprised you didn't, knowing you.
I still respect privacy.
I
And
didn't
stuff,
say you don't respect, but I mean, he's out in person. Like, okay, yeah, it's Maine. Sorry, we're small, but I'm here
Yeah.
too. Sign my
Yeah.
CD.
Exactly. I'm one fan that knows you're here. Like it's not even like that, bombarding. But the funny thing about talking about how Nirvana is not great live, because that Unplugged album was the first, or at least one of the first 3 albums I ever owned was an Unplugged album, and I loved it. And I think part of it is what we were talking about earlier, where you get to know Kurt a little bit because he talks candidly between songs, and you never get that otherwise. He's either super, out of it, or he's condescending in interviews, and you're like, you don't really get to know him. In that Unplugged album, you get to know him a little bit, which is great. But yeah, this live album, you get that what you were talking about, like not that great live. And I think actually that answers the question why they were never my favorite grunge band. And it was always like Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden are like fighting for my number one. I mean, obviously Pearl Jam's number one, but like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden are also great, and they're all great live. So it's like 3 out of 4 are like phenomenal live, and 1 isn't great live, and they're the biggest one. Just shows you like you don't have to be great live. You just have to, I don't know, represent what that kind of time frame stood for. So
they were great live for one sitting, I think, and it was the
Unplugged.
MTV Unplugged. Yeah, and it's not necessarily sonically; it's the feel of that. If you watch those videos, I mean, I can't imagine being in that room. That must have been really, really cool.
Yeah, it must have been pretty intense.
And again, the video companion to it can bring it to a whole nother level. Because that's the thing, is if this from the Muddy Banks had a visual to it, it'd be like, damn, I'm all in. Like, because a lot of this stuff was probably club shows. It was, I think some of it dates back to 89, 90.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, Twan, let's wrap her up here.
So I had one in mind earlier today and thought in the morning, I'm like, geez, we've talked about this friggin' band so much that I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. So what I was gonna pick was Rage's live at the Grand Olympic Auditorium. It's for a band that heavy, and here I am talking about it, I can't get enough of it. For a band that heavy, it's the tightest live album on the planet. But anyway, we'll save that for another time, because we talk about it
Drop
every
a
week.
bomb. See you later. Let's come back to that another time. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick one. I know you guys know of the band. You probably don't know the album. So the band is Earth Crisis. The album is The Oath That Keeps Me Free. Dropped in 1998. So we've mentioned Earth Crisis on this podcast. I think I mentioned them a couple times, but as recent as the episode with Brendan from Incendiary, because I compared their kind of trajectory as a band to Vision of Disorder, where they were, in a niche scene, scene heroes, and then they made that leap to Ozfest, and it didn't work out. And it didn't work out for anyone because their core fans are like, all right, you sold us out. And then Ozfest fans kind of knew this wasn't new metal, you know what I mean? So no one really won. But anyway, I'll come back to why I bring that up with this album. But so this album came out in 98 on Victory Records. A few reasons why I picked it and why it's one of my favorites. One, I have it on vinyl. I've had it on vinyl for probably 18 years, 2003, wow. 2004. So I've listened to it a ton. And for being a small label, small band, small budget, it sounds so good. It's one of the best recorded live albums, pound for pound, without a big budget, which adds to it, for sure. So let me, another reason why I brought this up, because I think you guys would appreciate this story. So I'm going to walk you through. They released 2 albums in the mid-90s on Victory Records. They leave Victory in 98 to go to Roadrunner, and they released Breed the Killers. What also comes out that same year is this album in 98 on Victory. So this was a label. This must have been to satisfy a label. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. This must have been the 3rd record on that deal. So to kind of tie it back to the Ozfest thing, they dropped that Breed the Killers album on Roadrunner. It bombs. What do? They sign back with Victory.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, they signed back with Victory. So, one thing I wish there was more is like more on-stage dialogue and banter. Because so like Carl Buechner, he's the singer. He's, this outspoken, I don't know if you know anything about Earth Crisis, but they're a vegan straight edge band, and they're almost militant with that. I wish there was more of that, but I have interviewed him. I interviewed him back in 2007, back when I worked with college radio. Cool guy, but I figured I'd mix it up because we've talked about Rage so damn much.
Rage who? Rage Against the what?
Rage Against the System of a Down. I don't know.
Yeah, with the sickness.
But yeah, I would say pound for pound, it's not the best. It's one of my favorites. And I think it's that nostalgia play. It's that, I got it. I don't know where the hell I got this, but back in probably like 2004.
This is a band that I don't know a ton about, but I actually almost made an Earth Crisis joke in the text today. So it's funny that you brought them up. This is one of those clairvoyant moments. I legit had it typed. I was like, no, wait, I don't know if this works here. It's funny to me, but I don't think it makes sense. And it's funny because you brought them up tonight. So.
What was the joke?
I honestly can't remember. Today was a fucking whirlwind, but it's like, oh, Earth Crisis. Oh, okay. Yeah. I had thought about them today, which is, if you had told me a year ago I was going to be thinking about Earth Crisis today, wouldn't have happened. Would not have been a thing. So for it to come up twice in the same day from 2 different sources, that's pretty cool. And that's a testament to our podcast. But it's something that I look forward to checking out and listening to. I love put the live album out to satisfy the deal, switch labels, bomb. Hey guys, is the door still open? Can we come back in? We'd love to put another album out with you. Like that fits so many different things in this life, right? Not just music, just the world.
Totally. It's the grass is not greener on the other side, legitimately a contract form. Like, no, it really isn't. We're going back to the roots. And I'm always intrigued by Roadrunner because they're kind of like the major label that's not even really a major label. Like they're sub-major in a lot of ways, even though they have Nickelback and Slipknot and stuff, but like they're not Epic, you know what I mean? They're not Reprise, or they're not Capitol Records. And they're pretty big,
I think by definition, I think they are major. I think they are subsidiary type of thing.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. Like they're in disguise, you know what I mean? Like they're not the big bad major.
Yeah. Well, because you can't get spins on some of that material that they press. Like you can't get in the top 40 ever. So if that's what the music industry stands for, then Roadrunners kind of sub that. But yeah, and at the same time, like they are signing all the biggest stuff within that genre, and Nickelback.
Well, you need the Nickelback to sign the rest of it, as we talked about with Brendan.
Yeah,
and it makes sense. It makes sense in every walk of life. You need that big bad gonna bring the money in so that we can do those fun side project-y type things.
Yep. Didn't Brendan, he mentioned it, right? It's like the seed capital, basically.
The crazy thing about this album is like, I love Earth Crisis. They had a couple funky albums in there where they definitely fell into the new metal stuff, and they went to Roadrunner, and even the Return album on Victory, which is called Slither, bombed. It was like butt rock and metalcore with like some 311 mixed in there. But the reason I'm laughing is like, no one was asking for a live Earth Crisis album. Like, this is totally a label thing. And in Victory, if you know anything about Victory, they're the shystiest. I mean, they're not even a label anymore, I don't think. They're just money hungry, and they switched gears in the early 2000s for a money grab, and it got worse from there. But yeah, no one was asking for this. But I don't know. I love the artwork. I love everything about it.
And the production, the sound, everything is good on it too.
Yeah, I mean, for it being 1998 and an indie label, Victory was indie, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy good.
Interesting.
It sounds better than Nirvana, the Nirvana compilation.
Was it recorded in one spot, or was it one of those kind of, here's a song from here, here's a song from there?
One spot. Yeah, it's a whole set.
I think that helps. I mean, awesome. I do think that helps. And I mean, that's the thing that we've kind of come back to recently. We've talked about off air in our group text. Nate and I both signed up for nugs.net for full show listens. Like, I want to relive a couple of shows that I went to, and there's some video and stuff like that too. And the deal was good. So yeah, I'm in. I'll do a year of this and see if this is something I like. And it's a full show, and you get the banter in between. You get the whole vibe of the concert. Not necessarily like you were there, but if you were there, like I've got a couple Counting Crow show on there. I think there's another act. I don't know if it's 311 or somebody else, but there's a few on there that I was actually at.
That's
I've
awesome.
listened through too again. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember that. Why? Where is it? Let's listen to it again. So that's been kind of fun, and that helps. Full set, and then pressing it, which we're going to see more of all this live stream stuff too.
Yeah,
that is cool to see that one cohesive piece of art, as opposed to song from here from 1994, song from here from 1995, 7 from this place, 4 from this place, and they mishmash it together.
Totally. And we're not affiliated with Nugs, but yes, we did sign up, me and Tone. We're trying to peer pressure Twan.
Yet.
Yes, yet. But I mean, I was just thinking, like, when you're saying that, like, if it's like a Facebook memory where it's like, remember this concert you went to? If that happened for like every show that I went to, like every show in your database, Twan, and they were like, do you want this? It's a memory. Like, you could have the whole show mastered, quality bootleg of this show. I would buy every single one of them.
Yeah.
So if Nug wants to step it up, I got tons of money to shell out for every show I went to, just to have it, to relive it, to, go back in time kind of thing. And the reason I'm such an advocate for live recordings is it's a lot of the reasons I get into certain bands is from live recordings. So the roots I got into them from this record. So I might get into Earth Crisis just from listening to this record, even, not knowing them at all, and being like, all right, now I can check it out. Cause it's like, in a lot of ways, like a live recording is like a greatest hits on a nerd level. You get it all. So
I'll mail out my copy on wax of The Oath That Keeps Me Free.
Don't sell it, Nate. Cause I mean, Twan, that's probably gonna be worth a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
How many of those are kicking around?
I don't think. And I mean, small pressing for sure.
It's yours. Like, that's the fun part about that, is this is mine. I'm happy. I've lived with it. I've listened to it. I kept it because it's one of my favorites.
It's one I never sold over the years. The artwork's cool. It's got like almost looks like a tattoo design. I'll when we get off this, I'll show you guys.